And welcome back to all my Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast fanatics across the interwebs. And we are back. All five. I mean, at this, we have 12 people who actually follow our stuff.
We have a dozen. This is a celebration, Mikey.
Oh my goodness.
Baker's dozen. Sorry.
Let's get one more to get to a Baker's dozen. I'd be so down. But welcome back to another long form edition of the Beat the Clock review for this week's Ring of Honor for June 29th, 2023. I am one half of your Bi-Conics Review of Honor team, otherwise known as Bro, Mikey.
Bro.
And of course, I can't do this without my better half on this review, the one and only JVL over here.
Also part of the Bro. I always love being the hot tag to you, coming off the ropes, taking them down when I can, and bring you back in for the win.
Oh my goodness.
As we usually have to when we start with this, it's Ring of Honor. We got to start with the Code of Honor.
Yes.
Which was not adhered to for most of the matches this evening.
I mean, so before we get into match by match, I have to say, Ring of Honor, whoever your PR person is who does the social medias, I need y'all. I understand you want to have some surprises, but I need y'all to get it together because you lied to me. You lied to me in the sense that the day of, when I was on Instagram and they dropped the whole card, I was like, okay, there's only 7 matches, so an hour and 15, like, I think this is going to be great. And then I went to Honor Club and I saw how long the episode was. I'm like, why is 7 matches taking 2 hours? And then I sat through it all. I was like, oh, by the end of it, I was like, you lied to me.
I was feeling like Mikey was going to say there's 3 Iron Man matches in this entire thing. That's why it was only 7 things. But yes, to set the scene, Mikey had sat in on the AEW Dynamite review that the Professor John and I both did with him there. And as we were getting off the air, he's like, yeah, 7 matches. You and I got this. It'll be easy. We'll watch it. We'll do it before we go to bed. We'll deal with the thing tomorrow. No. I only got through a first half of the show before I fell asleep, not because I was bored with the show, but because it was literally 3 a.m. And then finished it today. And I got to say, up and down episode, Mikey, I felt like there were some really good parts, but it also, you could tell it was recorded before Dynamite was, post Forbidden Door. It was literally NJPW Strong meets ROH in a really great way. But I just, not to spoil too much, but there were some things left on the table that could have been a lot better.
Yeah, I still had a lot of fun with this, as I always do with Ring of Honor every week. But like you said, post Forbidden Door, pre-Dynamite, like, New Japan meets Ring of Honor, which is not always a bad thing. But I feel like this kind of doesn't help, which I'll talk about at the end, because we have T-minus 3 weeks until Death Before Dishonor.
Let alone the fact that we have Money in the Bank this weekend, which a lot of people are comparing and seeing how that's going to come up against things. So we have literally a bunch of pay-per-views in the way setting up to Death Before Dishonor, and they've still got to find their way into that and set up a couple more matches. So it's going to be a tight race getting into it. And will Tony Khan have time, while he was sitting in Gorilla, be there to be able to get things on track while he's also dealing with AEW heading to London? Or it's going to be a thing, but you can tell that AEW is starting to find its groove with each of its programs and find that kind of center, which is really good. And yet you see peppered in and out, especially when they're in these big cities, you're getting people crossing over and you get the multiverse going, and it's starting to really be really funny. My moment of the night, which I'll get to later, was one of those crossovers, and I was so excited to see it. And I had to text Mikey at like early my time. I'm not spoiling anything. You've got to watch for this run-in. It's amazing.
I love, because there's a 3-hour time difference between the two of us. I'm in the West Coast. He's on the East Coast. So he texts me and be like, oh, it's reasonable time for him. You got to see this. I like wake up. It's 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, what? Who's texting me already? I was like, oh, it's JVL. I'll be like, hey, I just woke up, but I will make sure. I was like, I'll watch it.
Yeah, checking in with each other, make sure we watch it on time. And on vice versa, I'll stay up late to make sure that if anything comes through, if they're watching it at 11, 12, 1, 2 in the morning my time, which is around like 10 o'clock their time, it's a lot easier for me to feed into that thing, but my texts get non-coherent after a while.
I feel like that's all of us here, because we run on hope, desperation, and a little bit of duct tape.
We're going to have some sort of 2-on-2 match at some point where you and the Professor are going to be on one side. It's going to be me and Adolfo on the other, and then Minnie's going to be the referee in the middle there, because he's West Coast, but he's not really. He's just Southwest.
Oh, my goodness.
But speaking of groups that come together in weird places and coming from two different things, we had our first match right off the bat. You had a squash match, or as the professor calls it, a squatch match, because one of them did look like Bigfoot, of Mark Wheeler and Vikram Prashar, local talent. They've done a couple things versus the LFI, the Los Facciones Ingobernables, which was Dralistico and Preston Vance, the former 10 of the Dark Order.
Hey, Preston.
He was getting booed out the building.
I know. I was like, wow. I was like, I was like, oh, thanks for reminding me y'all are heels.
And also, the commentary wouldn't let up on the fact that Dralistico is the brother of Roosh and of the other Munozes out there. So obviously, he's not the best one. You have to talk about all the other ones while he's out there, even though he really took this match over. Like, Preston Vance did a decent job in squashing, but it was Dralistico setting up everything for him to get him to do the power moves that needed to happen.
Those lariats were beautiful to watch. And the basement drop kick, of course, Dralistico. Yeah. And then chops to tag in Preston, who then just, it's there. I was like, they didn't stand a chance. It was a squish.
I will say the two, so Wheeler and Prashar did really well selling it. I enjoyed what they did with it, and it made it look brutal. So overall, a really well put together match. No code of honor at the beginning, obviously playing up the heelish things, but this is like the Ingobernables were all over this episode because you had LFI, you had LIJ, you had a bunch of other things going on. So this started the match off, and we bookended it with LIJ afterwards. So really cool.
It was. And then we'll talk about this as we get to later on, but it's hard because Ring of Honor is supposed to be a separate thing. You have AEW roster stars on it, which is fine. I'm like, okay, so if y'all are heels, how does that work since Andrade's technically a face right now? I don't know.
He's a tweener at this
point.
He's got the wonderfulness of being back, but he's worked against bigger heels, but he's still healing it up at the same time. So I don't think Andrade can be a baby face. He can be a tweener at the best, and then he'll go right over to being a heel, but this will fit right back in, and I hope they put him back with LFI, and the three of them go for the trios with Dralistico, Roosh, and him before Roosh moves on to wherever he's going to move to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Roosh, because that was messy breakup between him and Triple A. That was messy. Speaking of messiness, this next match.
Nice transition.
The Dark Order versus the Righteous and Stu Grayson. I want to
say right up front, I love Evil Uno in that suit. That was like the most dapper yet like golf dad thing ever, because he's not wearing socks with the slipper shoes, and he's got all that stuff and he's moving around, but it's a dapper suit, and just so good. It was so good.
I wanted this match to be so much better. I wanted it.
I know. But we had the Dark Order, which was John Silver and Alex Reynolds by themselves after coming off their AEW defeat, basically at the hands of the Hung Bucks and the Elite, taking on the Righteous with Stu Grayson. This is the first time I've watched the Righteous enter, and I'm like, oh yeah, Bray Wyatt Light, which is what Dutch is doing. And then you've got, what Vincent's doing, which is basically playing Brother Love. And they were talking about that on commentary as well, which kind of set it up nicely. And then Stu Grayson finally wasn't wearing his leather skirt this time. He looked like he was trying to be some sort of like normal looking, but he had like bare chest in a weird leather jacket. But they're still playing this entire storyline out. You watch, and we discussed this on the Dynamite review, you've got on this side on ROH, the Dark Order's baby faces losing touch and not sure where Stu Grayson lies. They've lost their friend. And then on AEW, they're being portrayed as the heels against the Hung Bucks, losing their other friends. So Evil Uno just can't hold on to friends right now. He's just having trouble.
Yeah, on top of this too, this match felt really short. I wanted it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Like, I thought
to further the storyline. That's all it was meant to do, because the match itself, while John Silver and Alex Reynolds did a good job against the two of them, I did Vincent's offense. I don't like when any of them do promos, but the offense is fun. But yeah, this was meant to further the Uno Grayson storyline, and that got weird in the end of it, because it's all about Stu Grayson yelling, I want you to hit me, I want you to destroy me, show me who you are, and Uno just not having the balls to do it because he doesn't want to.
It's so weird because it's so weird to watch this, because I'm like, you guys turned your back on Hangman literally the day before, and then here I'm supposed to feel sympathetic because y'all can't hit your former friend, still friend, who knows at this point.
And you can tell from commentary, which was recorded after the fact, that they were talking about the fact of, you may have seen the Dark Order on Dynamite, and they were a lot more aggressive. And they said the word aggressive in a couple things, like Alex Reynolds was saying, you wanted us to be more aggressive. We're going to be aggressive. So they were hitting those points as something written by the writers to do. But you could tell because it was recorded before, like people weren't reacting the same way. And that's probably why I honestly believe this was recorded in the same night. They did this match earlier, and then that's when the Dark Order came out afterwards, and people were confused against the Elite because they were good guys in this. So what changed? So I think they need to. The sad part is I want Dark Order on Dynamite. They are really good when they work together, but they have more meat to play with right now still in ROH. So you've got to pick a place for them right now, unless you can make the storyline make sense because you're filming it out of order. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, their filming schedule is interesting because usually when they have Dynamite, they will record Dynamite and Rampage. They're, at least from the news reports, allegedly, the filming schedule now is that Dynamite and Rampage are going to be recorded at the same time. So if you go to Dynamite show, you'll get Rampage as well. And then if you go to Collisions, you will get Ring of Honor as well, which is very interesting. I will say,
which makes sense.
Yeah. I will say, there is still potential for there to be a blow-off match, maybe a Death Before Dishonor. I would be down with that. Or if you're going to continue to do it on the weekly Ring of Honor show, I'm here for it. While I wasn't the biggest fan of this match and I felt like it's too short, what I am appreciating now is that we are getting somewhat consistent stories between certain wrestlers. You could have. I would have, honestly, now that I'm looking at it, I'm just like, I don't know. With all the championships for Death Before Dishonor, I don't know how you would have dragged it out, but I would love to see that street fight at Death Before Dishonor between Athena and Kiera. That would have been amazing.
Amazing. But I think they have so much else on their plate right now they've got to deal with. It's just too much to do. You got it where you got it, which was last week, and now we do this. The thing with me with the filming schedule, too, is that the problem is you're going to film ROH for the next week on Saturdays. So depending on what happens on the live Dynamite, if they have those people there, too, it's still going to mess up the storylines. You're going to have to do the same thing. So there's going to be spoilers or not, depending on what they're doing when it's going to be a crazy thing. I don't know why they're doing it, so.
Yeah. Next match up, we get a rematch from what happened last week, where we have Layla Gray with Mr. Smart Mark Sterling taking on Diamante. I appreciate the consistency. They had a match last week. Mark got involved and Layla got the win. Diamante was not happy last week. And she's, I want a rematch. Mark was going to say no, but Layla, feeling herself, was like, I will take you on. And then this match happened.
So I got to ask, is Diamante being turned to being a tweener now, or is it just because Layla Gray is such a bad heel with Mark Sterling that she can do some of the babyface stuff?
I honestly don't know. I like the idea of Diamante being a tweener.
Yeah.
Because I have seen her as a heel and I love her heel work. Not to say that she needs to stay heel, but if she were to go full blown babyface, I would support her, but it would be very hard to make her believable. Just if it's done, you possibly can, but I like tweener Diamante better because not full heel, not full face, just doing what she needs to do to get over. And I would like that.
What she's doing now, she had a heck of a match there, and props to Mark Sterling too for selling and doing what he needed to do. It was quiet enough during the match you could hear a lot of the commentary from ringside, which was sad, but they did a really great job with it, and Diamante comes away with a win, so really cool.
Yeah, and of course, Diamante picks up the win. Not much in terms of ring-wise, but I am glad that Diamante got even, so who knows? We might get one more, because now they're 1-1, so we might get one more match. I wouldn't be against it.
I wouldn't be against it at all. But then we got an interview with the champion, Claudio Castagnoli, who was talking about the fact that he's not seen as a face of the company. Samoan Joseph and the Mogul Embassy, all them. People look at those and go, the Lucha Brothers, they're all seen this. Why am I not? Because you're boring, Claudio. But at the same time, you're too busy on Dynamite doing all your
I was going to say, I was like, sir, I know you're the Ring of Honor champion. Hey, Claudio, listen here real quick.
What's going on? What?
I'm like, sir, I understand the frustration, but sir, you are currently involved in one of the biggest main storylines on AEW currently. You and the Blackpool Combat Club fighting Kenny and the Elite and Hangman and all them boys. I understand, but you're the Ring of Honor champion, sir.
And you're not defending it, you're a heel. So you may need to defend it more often or do something if you're really worried about it. And then, of course, we get Chuck Taylor.
Mr. Chuck E.T.
Chuck E.T., because we have to have all the best friends on this episode of ROH who reminded everyone else he has a winning record on the Indies against Claudio Castagnoli, so he's got a chance tonight. And we're going to see that as our main event.
Yep, and Claudio's, I accept this. First, Chuck E.T. wants it to be a championship match, and Claudio accepts, but it's like, no, you must beat me in an eliminator match first. I'm like, oh, Chuck E.T., I love you, but you're not winning.
No, of course not, yeah.
But at least it sets up the main event. Okay, so this next match, right?
Can I preface something with
Yes, go for it.
In general, I don't want to watch the Workhorsemen. I don't like it. They're just boring. And so I was about to turn it off, and then at first, Gringo Loco. Oh, that seems pretty cool. He's a local boy from the area from, I think it was that they were filming Chicago. No, that was from Hamilton. Local boy. Shane Taylor, also very interesting, but boring as well. They have been. The Workhorsemen, them, I haven't liked with it. It's just not drawing me, but Gringo Loco. And then I realized, who are they fighting? And in my head, as I'm watching the entrances, I'm going, Mikey is literally having a baby right now because these are 4 of his favorite wrestlers to watch.
The Lucha Squad is in the house.
Oh my God. It is the literal house party, except for the WWE version. So it was the Lucha Bros, who came out last, El Hijo de Vikingo, who we just watched nearly kill himself on AEW Dynamite, and Commander. Now, this makes more sense. If Vikingo had this match and then had to do the next one for Dynamite, or even he was on Collision as well, yeah, he's fucking tired. He has to do all that stuff. And then I did love the commentary this week saying commander, like using the accent and the same thing, like not just saying Commander's coming out here and he's going to do stuff. Very well done there. I did want to ask also, Mikey, did you notice throughout the night from like this point on, commentary was obsessed with Buster Douglas and just old boxing matches over and over again. All they would bring up is like old Buster Douglas and Sugar Ray Leonard and all just boxing in general. I'm like,
I know.
What demographic are you playing to?
I was just like, this doesn't feel like the normal Caprice Coleman and Ian Riccaboni that I'm used to. I was like, what is happening?
I think Ian was going into his NJPW mode where he was doing some stuff there, but it just, I don't know what age group they were playing to, but bringing up the same boxing match multiple times and every match as like the back and forth, there's a reference level you're not going to get there that you're not drawing people in with.
So I want to say, of course, I will always support the Lucha Squad because those 4 are amazing. It sucks that AAA and New Japan still haven't fixed that relationship because I would have loved to see those boys in Forbidden Door, but it is what it is. At least hopefully we can get them. I know we'll get the Lucha Bros in some capacity at Death Before Dishonor, but hopefully we can work some stuff out where we can get a bunch of those guys for all in Wembley. But
nice. We'll see what happens.
This match ruled. The Lucha Squad was on point and just so much fun as always.
From minute one with Penta and Gringo Loco going back and forth with chops and then him taking the glove off.
I am slowly becoming such a big fan of Gringo Loco, man. I was like, who is this random? I was like, who's this random white boy? And then the match with El Hijo happened a couple weeks ago. I'm like, oh, okay. I was like, and then that match with Willie Mack, I was just like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I was like, I want to root for you so hard.
And he's not generic white guy like Roderick Strong.
No, he's not generic white guy. He is flippy. He's husky, flippy white guy, and I love it.
So good. But between that, Commander was doing amazing stuff. You had, literally the tag klaxon went off, I think, within the first 5 minutes. And then just going after each other, blowing each other up, and watching the smaller luchadors take on Shane Taylor and JD Drake and all that stuff, and trying to take them down.
This team was a good foil for the high flying of these boys.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And of course, nonstop action, flips to the outside, people taking suicidal dives, everything all over the place. And we get to the back, and it's the Fear Factor double stomp that takes him down. The Lucha Brothers, Hijo de Vikingo and Commander win. And yeah, it probably was my match of the night. I really enjoyed that the best.
Honestly, I was like, okay, first 2 matches, and then they just decided, let's crank up the heat, not even slowly. Let's just turn it all the way up all of a sudden. And I was like, damn it, you can't have this match like third, because now I'm like, as the rest of the night went on, I was like, I still had fun, but I was like, damn.
Too much all at once. It was too good, and that it spoiled me for the rest of the night because the next match was the bathroom break for me. I think I almost skipped this one.
It was another squash match.
And literally a squash because you had Big Bill in it. So it was Big Bill and Lee Moriarty versus Karu and Tarek or Tariq.
Tariq,
probably. But it was really bad because the only exchange in this match I enjoyed was Bill would hit Tariq, then Tariq would hit Bill with the same thing, and Bill would pop back up from it and wouldn't sell as much. And it's just, again, getting him to be like that. But in general, it was just, even with Lee Moriarty being told to calm down by Bill at all times when he's beating the crap out of these jobbers. It's just like, I don't know what you're setting up for this right now. This is kind of like spinning your wheels, and you probably have other people on the card that could do better. But I don't know.
Squash match aside, I haven't been happy with how AEW and Ring of Honor have been using Big Bill, only because, and again, as the sole person who watches Impact, when he was in Impact for about almost a whole year, all of last year, I was just like, this is the best redemption story I could think of in the modern era, because Big Cass was when he was in WWE, he was not the nicest person. He was going through issues. I remember that whole situation with Carmella made me not like him. Carmella didn't deserve that.
No,
but
not at all.
Then when he got let go, and then he went and got himself together, he got the help that he needed. And I was like, okay, I need to see how you're going to work, because you're still on my shit list, so to speak. But I want you to see if you can redeem yourself. And then the whole entire time in Impact, I'm just like, damn it, now I'm rooting for you. I'm like, gosh dang it. And then since joining AEW and Ring of Honor, I'm like, you should have probably stayed in Impact, because you were being used so much better over there. I will say I do like him and Moriarty being a team. That's fun. I just want more because I know what they're capable of, both of them.
But they're not giving them more, and they're just pushing it now to be like Moriarty's going off the handle, so Bill's going to have to keep him in check, which is kind of, is that the best use of their time? I think they could be a devastating tag team if they actually got into some stuff and got some tandem offense that worked.
Yeah, but another squash match, I was like, all right, time to go to the bathroom. And then I was pleasantly surprised with match number 6.
I figured it was going to be a banger in general because you have the Embassy against LIJ. It was Shingo Takagi, Hiromu Takahashi, and Bushi coming in for them to do it there. And obviously we have the usual of the Mogul Embassy. I was wondering how they were going to work in all of their stuff, because knowing how Bushi works and being the smallest out of them, it was going to be a man meat fest versus Shingo was the biggest out of them and he wasn't doing the most.
I love Takahashi. I love his... Oh, man, I really wished we got what I'm used to seeing with his New Japan gear, just the crazy ass, looking like a Muppet, cut apart jackets and everything. And I was like, I get it, because you can't really take that over and whatnot. But man, this match I was pleasantly surprised. I was really enjoying this match.
Yes. It was a good back and forth. They worked really well together, played to each other's strengths in a lot of ways, like giving Brian Cage a lot of time to be actually very agile. But oh my God, when he caught Shingo and then Takahashi on his head and did the full fall, and he didn't move that much. I was like, wow, dude, you have got some skills there. And they even worked in the Black Mist, which was awesome.
Yes. I love it. Bushi mists him and then tries to fight up Toa and Khan. Shoulder block to open the gates, and then it is over with still.
Awesome. Giving it to the two of them to get the pin instead of Brian Cage. Awesome. That's what you want.
That's what I want to see. I just hope, because I'm glad to see our trios champions, our 6-man tag champions on weekly Ring of Honor television. I'm like, yeah, I know they're big guys and they're squashing everybody, and the credible threats have been squashed as well. I'm just wondering, from a storytelling perspective, on where do we go from here? Because right now there's no other 3-person team that has been built or can be like, you know what, I can believe if they take down the Embassy.
The only ones out there right now is if you were doing Battle of the Belts would be House of Black.
Yeah, but it's champion versus champion match would be fun, but that's muddying the waters.
It is. I'm saying that's their biggest thing. My thought would be, if you're really wanting to work people up to the House of Black rules, which they need to use better on Dynamite anyways, start having trios go down to ROH, fight the Mogul Embassy, and get better at them. Maybe not beat them for their title at the time, but get a couple of like matches in with them to prove they can work as a trio, and then bring them back up.
For sure.
Oh, this match next. This was the 7th match of the night. So the last one, obviously, Mikey. There were no other ones. But I didn't know what to expect going into it. I've seen Willie Mack work really well, and I've seen Desperado, which I also enjoy. I didn't think it would be this good.
I've always been a big fan of Willie Mack since Lucha Underground days, Impact days. This big man has got the hops, and when you pair him up with somebody as great as Desperado too, I'm just like, Willie Mack's out here having some fun matches with some really great people.
He's basically having the matches that Keith Lee used to have, with a lot of good people, and especially with like people that are now like Desperado is all pumped up to be like, he's now fully a heavyweight. To make sure you understand, Willie Mack isn't taking on a little flippy guy. He's taking on someone that actually is like stout and taking that up there, and seeing the work on the knee, making things go the way they did. It was back and forth and back and forth. I honestly believe Willie Mack probably had a couple of times where he should have won.
And then, of course, towards the end, oh, Mac, you're trying to go for the power bomb, but the knees buckle, and then Desperado holds on, and Angel Wings for the win.
Lowest backslide, by the way.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I love Desperado. I love Willie Mack, too.
It was really good, and the show support afterwards. And I love the fact that they did this to do the tune-up, because Desperado's fighting Moxley next week.
They're gonna kill each other. It's gonna be so much fun.
John Moxley cannot stop himself from bleeding in every match he does. It's just what it is.
Honestly, that whole entire New Japan that card. Honestly, as much as I'm excited for the death match because I'm a proponent for women's wrestling, night 1. I'm looking forward to Willow's tag team match. But more importantly, night 2 is where I'm gonna glue my eyes at some point. It's Willow, who has become such a big favorite amongst the AEW and just that whole entire universe, taking on probably one of the top women in Stardom, Julia. And the fact that she is coming to the US, because she doesn't come over that often.
No.
And what my hope is, this is just fantasy booking. I think Julia beats Willow here, maybe. I don't know, which is unfortunate because I love Willow. But when she gets here, Julia versus Mercedes.
Oh, it's going to be epicness once we get her back from her injury. So
yeah, but
it needs to happen. I know that Toni Storm was supposed to fight her at Forbidden Door, which would have been very fun too, but Will did a great job. You couldn't have had a better person in place for this type of thing to happen, and she's having banger after banger all over the place.
I still think her match against Athena is probably one of my favorite women's matches so far in 2023.
It was brutal and it was wonderful.
Willow and Kiera Hogan out here just killing the game, because Kiera is also part of one of my favorite matches so far.
You're a bit of a homer. Those are the ones you had coming into this, watching this thing, as those were some of your favorite wrestlers to watch. So I'm not surprised you enjoy their work. It makes complete sense.
I also really enjoyed this next one. Of course, I love it anytime we get a reunited of Roppongi Vice, which is Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta taking on the memes of New Japan House of Torture.
Gotta love it. And he got the weird like entrance jacket in with the 8 arms and stuff like that. I don't know why Takahashi couldn't have done it in the other one, but it was a really good match, and they played up, for those that didn't know, like Rocky training show and being there for him and having Roppongi over in Japan. And it was a fast back and forth match, really hard hitting, really well done. I love watching Rocky and Trent Beretta work. Yes, I do love Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta as the best friends, but they all, like, Trent Beretta could work with pretty much everybody. Like, he's a really good person in there. Why he hasn't fought Carl Anderson recently, so we have the Beretta versus the Machine Gun, I don't know.
I know. I was like, they were in New Japan for a little bit before coming back to WWE. I have a whole plethora of questions with New Japan. I'm like, I understand. I was just like, we're gearing up for the G1 climax, so I am going to see some of my favorites. I'm holding out hope. I was like, I want either Will to win that tournament, or I would love to see Tama Tonga take it, because he came so close last year. I love Tama Tonga, and I love the Gorillas of Destiny.
but he's on the verge of being signed by someone back east now. That's the big thing, is we're waiting for that to happen. He may not win the G1 because he's in that limbo period. But back to the match at hand. Super hard hitting, a lot of different back and forth. Romero and Beretta work really well together. In general, there was even like a half ref bump almost where they got the ref to see what was going on because Trent took the pimp cane away and was automatically like, no, I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to use it. Pretty easy before he got beat up there. But they got him into strong zero. They did the whole big thing. Roppongi Vice puts it away. And the House of Torture starts to attack them, to go after them. Beats the living crap out of them. And my moment.
Yes.
Lowest, most. Think back to Jeff Hardy coming in for a save and like doing his dance at the top of the ring and he ran in.
Then he remembers.
This was like, yeah, I'm here. I don't need to deal. Like super cool. So everything else. Orange Cassidy's music hits, and he walks to the ring to save Roppongi Vice. House of Torture clears the ring automatically because
they're like, nope.
Yeah, nope.
Of course.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense because Orange Cassidy, because Rocky and Trent, along with Chucky T, and Tomohiro Ishii, I've come to find too, part of Orange's faction in New Japan, Chaos. It's like, oh no, the leader of Chaos is here. Run.
He's not running, but you should run.
Yeah. God.
But it was just that run. The music hit. The crowd went nuts. And they got the hug and everything else, giving the people what they came for. Wish Chucky T had been out there with them at the same time. Or did he didn't come out, so it was just Orange. But
no, because
everybody from Best Friends and from that were all on the card.
That was such a highlight.
So if you can find that online, find that moment. Like after the match, bells rung and just he's just walking to the ring, and I popped so hard.
Oh my God. It was so good. And the fact that House of Torture Soul be like, oh hell no, we're getting out of here. Nope.
Nope.
I love House of Torture. They're so memeable in the professional wrestling world. Is so funny.
If you haven't gotten a chance to watch New Japan and find out about them, they're ridiculous.
It is. I love it. It's so good. Oh, this next match was so much fun as well. I'm like, damn, the
promo was good too.
I know, man. Kyle Fletcher out here. I know his tag team partner is still on the sidelines, but man, this kid strapped the rocket to himself and has been doing amazing work as part of like when Will's not there as like the de facto leader of United Empire, as well as what he's been doing in his singles matches. But you have United. Yeah, go ahead.
Big gun in there with TJP and with Jeff Cobb. As part of United Empire.
I love TJP. And Jeff Cobb I love Jeff Cobb too. I'm slowly turning Adolfo into a Jeff Cobb fan.
It does help that he kind of looks like him a little bit.
Oh my God, I can't unsee it. You are right. But
the United Empire took on Action Andretti, Darius Martin, and the head of HR, Christopher Daniels.
The fallen angel.
Head of talent relations, i.e. HR. People who have to deal with their severance packages and stuff. So you have so many different styles thrown in here. They all are great. And I still get blown away. I'm like, damn, Christopher Daniels. I was like, you've been in this business for a very long time and you could still go. I'm just like, him and Frankie Kazarian, man. I love them. Love them so much. And with Scorpio Sky was really good there too. But commentary on this one brought it down. Again, a lot of the Buster Douglas talk, a lot of boxing metaphors.
I was so mad. I'm like, just stop talking. Just let the match happen.
Because it was going so nice from the beginning with Andretti and with TJP, with just chain wrestling going nuts, to the power game with Jeff Cobb, to Christopher Daniels running wild on all the younger guys. It was start to finish really good storytelling for a trios match, and really cool to see how Andretti and Martin are working with pretty much anyone they want to at this point, because AR Fox for some reason wasn't there. I think it might have been like something with the visa issues to be able to get up there, but who knows?
Who knows? But Christopher Daniels always proves that he finds a way to just do enough, and he's perfect to put in these kinds of situations. And honestly, what made it even better too is just watching from a ring psychology perspective. I was like, damn, Christopher Daniels is a ring general in his own right.
Everyone, when they're working with him, is learning something about the business as they're going along. It's really cool to watch. But then we had the almost false finish of this one. TJP got his arm up on the 3 count.
I was like, oh.
Almost was a botch.
I was like, oops.
But so hopefully that sets something up for them going forward, where it's going to be more stuff where they're either attacking them backstage, antagonizing them somehow, telling Jungle Boy that he doesn't have the hottest girlfriend in all of AEW. Anything you want to talk about.
Kyle Fletcher already did that on Twitter. After that promo, he literally goes on Twitter and he's LOL, nah.
Picture of Sky Blue.
Yes.
But in general, a very entertaining match. Again, like I said, this card had a lot of good matches with a lot of good things in them. But the amount of squashes and the amount of time between and just even the promo work backstage, like we had we had one good promo, which is the Kingdom, talking with Jerry Lynn and setting up a 6-man tag, but 6-person tag with the Kingdom and Maria Kanellis versus, I forget who they're going up against. Who are they going?
The Infantry and my girl Trish Adora.
That's right.
See, I love this consistent storyline between these two teams. I was like, oh my gosh, we're getting consistency.
And getting good authority figures on both sides. Samoa Joe saying he owns Stokely Hathaway now. Jerry Lynn basically taking an ECW thing personally. So good.
It's slowly starting to come together, and I'm really excited. I have some news we'll talk about at the end of it, because I don't think Maria's going to wrestle. But news has reported of who came back, and it makes me happy. But we'll talk about it in a little bit.
We'll talk about it in a second. But right now, moving on to the next one, it was a proving ground match for the women's championship.
The proving ground squash match.
Proving ground beat down. Athena kicked her ass, and also was just like playing to the crowd. It was Athena versus Casey Spinelli.
Athena's. We're only in June, and if she continues to do this amazing work, she's going to be my women's wrestler of the year. By everything.
I love the commentary brought up that they were in the same building where she snapped last time, where she not went heelish, but went hard on the local talent there. And then there was that whole controversy about her beating up that person on Rampage.
Jody Thread, who's now on Impact. Hey, Jody.
There you go. She got her contract out of that. So good on Athena helping her out doing that.
Oh my gosh. Jody was like, people need to calm down. She did an interview with Ring the Bell, and Jody was just like, I don't understand the controversy. Both of us talked about it and we were fine with it. I'm like, wrestling fans are crazy sometimes.
It's surprising. And I have to believe, unfortunately, that the backlash was always because they were female. And there are some old dyed-in-the-wool people that just don't to see female wrestlers be as badass or more than the male wrestlers.
Yeah, this year has made me upset with misogynistic wrestling fans. And even towards the end of last year, too.
I say that. We're teaching Minnie about women's wrestling.
Yes.
And he's really enjoying it. But he wouldn't have come to it, I think, unless he had talked to us.
Of course not. And I feel that can be true for anything. But we're slowly getting him into women's wrestling. Because honestly, sometimes women's wrestling is a lot better than the men's wrestling.
Which is why, again, this is not ROH related, but I want the rumor or what they were talking about to be true, what Liv Morgan was talking about, saying, could we have a weekly women's show? We're all better than everybody else. Like,
you have enough women across all three of your brands or even on the main roster to do something.
Or just do Evolution too. Like, literally, or WWE is not going to get to it. Somebody out there do a women's pay-per-view event. Honestly, AEW, you're working with Stardom. You can bring people in if you're really worried about your women's roster, which you shouldn't be worried about, but you have the ways to do it. This is what we need here. We need more women's matches.
I just in the current climate, because I have so many dream matches I want to see, because there are so many women in WWE that I want to see wrestle across AEW, Ring of Honor, and Impact, and New Japan, and Stardom. I'm just like, just for a night, forget booking, just let these girls fight each other.
Definitely.
I'm just, But Athena just whoops Casey's ass all up and down the ring.
All up and down the ring afterwards, takes it to her, is showing she's still the fallen goddess. She is unhinged. I feel like if there's a mixed tag match, she's got to have the fallen angel and the fallen goddess together. Then you'd have the fallen deities or something, but you never know. But it was a brutal end to the match there.
I'm excited. And then, of course,
who do you think is replacing Maria Kanellis then? Who do you think?
Okay, so let's talk about this tea, right? So,
yes, please. I want to hear it.
Spoiler alert. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you should skip ahead to the next couple of seconds. But there was a news report and there were images that Maria Kanellis and the Kingdom came out for a promo during some Dynamite of AEW tapings. I don't know if that's Collision or Dynamite, but regardless, it seems that the person that is going to be replacing Maria is the returning legit Layla Hirsch.
So that's where they're placing her. I knew she was coming back, and I had heard that she was going to be finding Statlander to continue the storyline from a year ago, but that makes a lot of sense, actually, especially with who they've got going with the infantry. That's interesting.
I know, it's interesting. I'm just happy to see Layla back because those damn ACL injuries, man.
And the funny part is that two people in the same storyline both injure the same part of their body within weeks of each other.
God, it was crazy. But
insane. I'll look forward to seeing that. And now, if you're wondering, come back from spoiler territory. We're going into the final match of the evening in 3, 2, 1.
Final match. It is for a Ring of Honor World Championship Proving Ground match, which has seen the challenger, Mr. Chucky T, Chuck Taylor, taking on champion Claudio Castagnoli. This is not a spoiler because we knew how this was going to end.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And honestly, I feel like it was the perfect length. It was short. It was to the point, and it didn't need to be more than that. It was fun to see Chuck get a lot of the offense in, but Claudio's just is a heel. He's like, when he thinks he can win the match, he just knows the perfect way to just end it. He's just like, bam.
It's played around like a cardio thing too. Like he let Chuck go to town on him for the best he could and just played through it and took everything he could and then changed gears. And Claudio can do this really easily because he is superhuman, but I feel like this was a good get back on track match for Claudio, but he hasn't had that spectacular match yet that really showcases what he can do. He's going to win, he's going to overpower someone, but he hasn't had an opponent that has made him shine more than just, I'm a champion, that's why I'm good. Which is sad because, again, this is the story of Claudio and his entire career has been, he's so technically proficient and so wonderful. And he's gotten better about using his personality into things and putting it into matches, but he still hasn't been fully opened up by someone yet. And until that happens, he's going to be that second tier champion as the champion of the company.
And I'm like, I kid you not. I was just like, when I watch Ring of Honor and I see Samoa Joe more so than Claudio, I was like, oh, hey, Joe. Yeah, you're the face of this company. Oh, wait, you're the television champion. Where's our world champion? And then I look at Dynamite. I'm like, oh, hi, Claudio. I forgot you're a Ring of Honor champion.
Because while he's a champion there, he's like the 3rd out of 4 in that group.
What are we doing? It's so weird, too, because it's not the first Blackpool Combat Club member to hold Ring of Honor gold, but
yeah,
it was, now that we're splitting Ring of Honor away from Dynamite and Collision and just all that, but I'm just like, it worked with Wheeler because Wheeler would defend the title both on Ring of Honor and on Dynamite and Rampage. Those matches with Daniel Garcia are still some of my favorites.
So good. And then Shibata's done the same thing, being pure champion. He's on both shows. He's doing it all over there when he does it. But you have people defending it. If Claudio's going to bring it with him, he's got to defend it. And like, it needs to be brought up that he defended it the week before on ROH, which isn't being talked about. So like even Samoa Joe's being talked about as the TV champion, but he's a better talker than Claudio is.
And at least like the last couple of weeks, we've seen him wrestle. And then I really like that stint him and Zack Sabre Jr. were going with for a little bit. Zack Sabre Jr. is another person. I'm just like, this man's is so good. I'm just like,
another level. It's another level.
I will say though, I take it back because I forgot that Claudio is defending the Ring of Honor Championship on Rampage against Commander.
That'll be fun.
That'll be fun. But
that before or after his no, Commander's not in the death match. Sorry, that's Desperado. I got them confused. I'm sorry about that. My brain is starting to melt, as you can tell. It's not late here, but it's been a long day. But Mikey, overall, like I said, mediocre show, better than mediocre. What do you give it out of 10? What are you thinking?
I give this final thoughts. Like I give this like a solid like 2.75, maybe a generous 3. I still have a lot of fun. It's just that I can't rate it higher than that only because, and we'll discuss this in more detail after this. I'll save my thoughts for that, but 2.75, a generous 3. And my reasoning is because you have a pay-per-view in 3 weeks, and we'll talk more in detail after, but I'll let you give your thoughts first.
I was hanging around a solid 3, right there in the middle, good C show. I feel like it suffered from not only having to build for a couple more weeks, but also the fact that we had just come off a giant pay-per-view for AEW, and it was bigger than usual. And it's been like a rush of every company out there is like getting their pay-per-views in the next week or two, that there's just the oversaturation. And so you have to really come to this and like breathe, relax, and be okay with it. And I think they rest on their laurels of, we can just coast through at this point. We're in the middle of everything. No one's paying attention to us until we get closer to the pay-per-view. Could do better, but did some things amazingly well. And thank you for the moment of Orange Cassidy running down to the ring.
It is. But something that you brought up too, where my biggest concern is right now is you have Death Before Dishonor literally in 3 weeks, and your champions, Athena, Joe, the Lucha Brothers, Claudio, they don't have any challengers and they're not involved in any storylines towards this pay-per-view. And that's starting to trouble me a little bit. Now, granted, I think the wrestling is going to be amazing when we get to that pay-per-view. The Ring of Honor pay-per-views tend to always have amazing wrestling, but you have 3 weeks to build a storyline. And I feel like with some of the championships, I don't know how you would have extended it to the pay-per-view, but I was legit interested in, honestly, I loved the Chicago street fight between Athena and Kiera. Yeah. I would have, like, in hindsight, I would have, if you could try to extend it out a little bit longer for a couple weeks, I would have loved to see that fight happen at Death Before Dishonor.
Yeah, build up in different stipulations as you go along, or make it a best of whatever, so that the final one is going to be the street fight in London.
Yeah, sure. But what also troubles me is it seems that the mid-card feuds that aren't around the titles have storylines that might be going into Death Before Dishonor. You will have the Kingdom and the Infantry along with Maria and Trish going at it. The continuation, if they want to keep it up for a couple weeks, you have Stu and the Righteous versus Dark Order, which I was like, these have better stories going into Ring of Honor and into this 3-week cycle before Death Before Dishonor than your champions do at this point.
And you've got the setup with Shibata now, having been in the international championship match with Daniel Garcia. They're going to have a pure championship match pretty darn soon.
I'm here for it.
There you go. They're going to have, that's going to be defended that way. That's set up, and that's been done so piecemeal over the last like month and a half. Like you get one match once a month from them on the pure championship end of it, and it's still more compelling.
And it's weird because I feel like with that title, it works really well to have it that way because it is pure rules. But I'm like, you have, I would say, arguably the 4 biggest Ring of Honor star champions you have currently in this rotation of who's champion right now. Like, I'm like, I thought, okay, we're going to get Claudio versus Eddie too. Like, I would be cool with that. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, we can't, because Eddie's going to Japan because he's part of the G1 Climax tournament. So he's not going to be available.
The big problem here is that they need to get the belt off Claudio, because unless you're going to turn him face and keep him out of the Blackpool Combat Club, he's being used too much on Dynamite to be worthwhile on ROH.
And I'm just looking at this roster. I'm like, just make Joe, like, at this point, I'll be fine. As much as I hate double champions, I'm like, make Joe a double champion. I'm trying to think. I'm like, who right now on the men's roster for Ring of Honor would I want to see hold that title? And then I'm like, I don't know. I really don't.
We don't know enough about them. I think you could honestly make Joe the champion and put the TV championship on somebody else. That's an easier one to float.
Yeah, the TV. Shoot, if you want to make the TV championship, I don't know, travel, I guess. I don't freaking know. This is the problem because we have some consistent players, but nobody has been built up for these matches yet.
And especially if they want to do any like kind of brand synergy or invasion of ROH or anything else into AEW, you've got to build a roster that feels like they're part of ROH and not just there by name.
Like I said, the only people that right now that I feel like are like, if you think of Ring of Honor, I'm like, yeah, I could see that right now is like, honestly, basically this feud between the Kingdom and the Infantry. I'm like those, like Mike, like Maria, Mike, Matt Taven, the Infantry boys, Trish Adora, like those are like, okay, those are your main players, right? Like some of your main players right now for Ring of Honor. I'm like, okay, Ring of Honor, I can see them there, and they've been doing amazing work. But it makes it hard when you're constantly shuffling in and out AEW talent. And like Diamante would be another one. And I'm slowly be like, Kiera Hogan is Ring of Honor, but that's only because she's been involved with the storyline with Athena for a couple of weeks. And I was like, she belongs here. Yeah, I could totally see that.
Definitely. They have a lot of work
Yeah.
to do. They got 3 weeks till the pay-per-view. Let's see where this goes. You're off next week, and I'll be watching it myself and probably do the review solo on this one, but I'll try to keep it up for you. And then turning that back around, going into the pay-per-view, you'll be by yourself while I'm stuck in the Netherlands. So it's going to be cool to get each other's perspective on this. I'll probably be texting you the best I can to let you know what I think, but it's really going to be an interesting couple weeks.
Yeah, so it's going to be a little bit before we're back together, but honestly, I'm looking forward to it. And actually, the next time that we're fully back together, I think Death Before Dishonor will just have passed.
Exactly. So I'll have watched it and we'll be able to give our stuff. But Mikey, I enjoy watching with you. I hope that our lovely dozen people that are watching us right now really enjoyed us going over it. We're going to have our Beat the Clock coming up in the hopefully less than 5 minutes because it's you and me and not me and the professor who go 13. And in general, I probably wouldn't watch ROH unless I could watch it with you. So I appreciate you and I appreciate the 12 people or more who are watching. Thank you for spending time with us. And Mikey, it's been a pleasure.